So our next awardees have just vigorously defended Anita and many others. James Silver and Gary Grill are brothers-in-law and brothers-in-law whose families are vegan PETA members and whom we consider part of our family. James and Gary regularly consult on PETA's legal cases. James's young daughters wrote a testimonial in our annual report, and Gary's son, who's here with us tonight, is spreading the vegan message in his school. So when the pig farmer brought charges against Anita, I think that he was sure that he was doing a favor to the factory farming business, and au contraire, mon ami. So, with James and Gary's exemplary legal work, this case conjured up worldwide sympathy for the animals used and abused in the food trade, and it garnered media attention that laid bare everything that's wrong with an industry that will harm and kill to make ham and chops. It sends consumers to the ER with heart attacks, cancers, and stroke, and it poisons the rivers and the earth in the quest for profits. None of that would have come out in the court had not Gary and James made sure that it did. There are very few trials in which the trial is turned on its head in this way, and we're all so proud and happy to know them. James and Gary, you are the movement's heroes. It's my pleasure to present you with a Justice for Animals Award.
Thank you all very much. Ingrid mentioned the fact that our family are big PETA supporters, and we've been vegan for a long time, but there was an original, and he's my brother, Jonathan Grill. And he went to California when he was 8 years old, and a transport truck drove by him, and he said to my uncle who was visiting, "Oh, look at all the cows, look at all the cows, where are they going?" And my uncle said, "Well, where do you think you get your burgers from?" And of course, truth and right and wrong is very clear to a child. And when my brother was only 8, he decided he was never going to eat an animal again. And when he came back to where we were living in Montreal, I was a big meathead. I was 15 years old, 6 years older than him, just starting to lift weights, and I was eating, meat every single day of my life. And he refused, absolutely refused. And a year later, unfortunately, our mother died of cancer. I was 15, he was 9. And I became very parentalized to my brother, and I was forcing him to eat meat. I was giving him all the carnist, arguments that can possibly exist. You're protein, and God, and we're the top, and this is the way it's supposed to be. And this was back in 1984. And this 9-year-old kid refused. And every argument I came at him with, he came back at me with the counter argument. He seemed to have the answer. And this was, as Ingrid mentioned, before the days of internet. They just didn't exist. And this 9-year-old kid, and then became a 10-year-old kid, and 11 and 12, and then for 6 years we argued back and forth about why he should eat meat, and him telling me why I shouldn't. And in the process of me trying to convince him, he convinced me. And he convinced my sister, and he convinced my brother-in-law, my father, and my wife and I have raised a beautiful vegan boy. And when Ingrid talks about seeds, I have to tell you that this is her seed, because nothing existed in 1984 except for PETA. And all the arguments that my brother was bringing to me, he was getting from PETA, and he was getting from Ingrid. So this award is particularly important to me. And I'm greatly honored that I'm receiving it from one of my heroes. And doubly honored that I'm here on a day that I also got to represent another one of my heroines. Thank you.
Ingrid said the name of the tour is Unstoppable. While she was talking, she used words like relentless and persistent. It's a good thing because the work is really never ending. But it's not just hers to do, it's all of ours. Every single one of us is an ambassador. It happens when we go to the corner store and pick up a jug of soy milk instead of cow's milk. And people are looking at us, hey, you have soy milk? Or you go to Starbucks and you ask for a coconut milk latte or a soy milk latte instead of a cow's milk or whatever else it is that they serve. People look at you, you look like a normal person. Why do you do that? And you start talking. Really? You're vegan? What's your belt made of? What's your shoes made of? What's your wallet made of? How do you do that? Where do you get your protein from? And everybody knows the questions that get asked. And we have the answers. Because we've been living it, or are living it, or have made the choices, and we're going through psychotherapy by talking to a complete stranger in Starbucks saying, this is why I made these choices. The fact of the matter is that there are resources available today that were never available before. There's a social media available today that was never available before. They talk about how television changed the world during the Vietnam War, that people would sit down at their dinner table and they would see the atrocities that were being committed, and it changed the world perspective. Well, the internet has done that. And who is the top of the internet when it comes to animal rights? Peta. Any resource that you need is available. Really, you're interested in why I'm having a soy latte or where my shoes are from? Here's the website. You can have the same shoes as me. Go on Peta's website. Here you go. And so every single one of us is an ambassador. Every single one of us has the resource, the ability to speak up. And there are downsides to it also. Let's just say he doesn't really like going out for dinner with me. It's inevitable that at some point or another somebody's going to say or do something that's just going to launch me. Start talking, everybody's being there. Yes, the loudmouth vegans that just won't shut up. And that is part of our responsibility. That's part of the weight that we have to bear, because it is our responsibility to educate. So when it came to Anita's trial, that was our responsibility. That is what activism is. It's acting. It's getting up and doing something. And you don't have to have any specialized training. All you have to do is be able to communicate. And you see an opportunity. You see something that has happened, and I'm calling it an opportunity. The flip side of that opportunity is that something awful has happened. Something terrible has occurred, and it requires action. If you're a doctor, and someone comes into your office complaining of an ailment, well, your responsibility is to heal that person. But if that ailment flows from the consumption of meat because of cardiovascular disorder, or diabetes, or cancer, or whatever it may be, you have the opportunity to do the right thing during the course of your everyday normal events, because you're an ambassador. You're an advertiser. You have the ability to make choices, and not only to make the choices in your head for yourself, but to make your choices and make them known to others, and why you're making those choices, and communicate to others why you do what you do. And if they have questions about it and ask you for more information, you know exactly where you can get that more information. The internet. And media. And all that comes at a cost. And so, that goes to the next part of it. Peta needs support. And that's where all of us come in handy. Because aside from having this duty as an ambassador and living our normal lives and feeding our families and doing whatever else that is that we do, we also have the ability to support monetarily, support not just financially, but by providing support, by being there when you get an action alert. Talk to people. If you can't make it out to the action yourself, tell people, did you hear what's going on at fill in the blank, Marineland, SeaWorld, the Edmonton Zoo, wherever it may be? Did you hear about the Bowmanville Zoo? Yeah, they're closing. Can you believe it after all these years? Yeah, well, here's why. Here, I got my phone. Let me show you the video. It's brutal. You don't have to find people who are already predisposed towards animal rights. You just have to find people. That's what one of the things that we learned through this endeavor with Anita is that it doesn't matter what you believe. The right thing is the right thing. People are incensed. They may be waking up in the morning having bacon for breakfast, but they are incensed that Anita's being prosecuted for giving water to a thirsty pig. They're incensed about the way the pigs were transported. They're incensed that the pigs were being transported in the first place. They're incensed about the way that the pigs are treated at the pig farm. It's a discourse that has started, a discourse that started decades ago. I'm sorry to call it decades. It's a discourse that started 1980, when Peta started. It's a discourse that has been snowballing, coming downhill and gathering momentum to the point that a couple nights ago, because Gary won't go to, carnivorous restaurants with me, we started driving around and we were taking a break a couple nights ago looking for somewhere to get dinner. We went to one vegan restaurant. It was packed. Couldn't get in. We didn't have time to wait. So we went to the next vegan restaurant. It was packed. We couldn't get in there either. So we went to the next vegan restaurant and the one after that and the one after that. Until finally we're like, look, I'm starving. We got to get back to work. We got to do stuff. Where are we going to go? So we ended up going to another vegan restaurant. Okay, let's be realistic. Back in the last century, there was no vegan restaurant. Forget about going to 6 of them, which are packed. The times they are changing. Why? Because of this discourse, because of the ambassadors, the people who can express why they do what they do and the importance of it. The recognition today that has never been there before about how important our choices are. But the true advocates are every one of you, not just for what you've chosen, not just for what you have advocated, but what you will advocate, how you will approach this, how you will communicate with others moving forward. You're the advocates. You deserve the award. Because every time you take a step and walk anywhere and talk to people and interact with people, as Ingrid has said, on a plane, in a supermarket, a woman standing in front of you wearing a fur coat at Starbucks or whatever it may be, that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to educate, an opportunity to talk. Even if you happen to be in Scotland and on a train where nobody actually talks to each other, there's always an opportunity. There's always the ability to explain how important these choices are. And that's what Anita looks at. That's what Anita sees. Sometimes it's scary. It can be terrifying. Taking on the entire pig farming industry. Talking about one farm making over $25 million a year from supplying pigs to one slaughterhouse. $25 million a year, one farm, one slaughterhouse. That's a terrifying scope. So it can't be scary. You walk in, there's a bunch of large, fellas who are standing there, truckers. It can be intimidating. But that's not what the issue is. There's a message that has to be delivered. Anita's there every day bearing witness. When she sees suffering, she doesn't shy away from it. She moves closer. When there's a message, she doesn't just whisper it, she shouts it. What would Anita do? I thank Peta, I thank Ingrid, I thank you all for this recognition, but like I said, it's you who deserve the recognition.